Welcome to Purposeful Living with Cynthia Van Warmer, where we slow down long enough to see what's really happening and take our power back without losing our grace. Welcome back to Purposeful Living with Cynthia Van Warmer and my friend, Marc Hildebrand.
Yeah. Let's go, friend.
Okay, so I've had a lot of questions, people asking me, Marc, that I talk a lot about when I was done, right? And where I am now and the different tools and skills and things that I use in everyday life. But there's a gap. There's something missing. There's something missing that I need to share with everybody. And of course, I asked you back because you are the question king and you bring out the best in me. So, Marc, let's go.
Let's go. Yes, friend. This is something that I've been thinking about, listening to your episodes as well as being able to see this transformation myself. I know that a lot of people want to know that middle ground, right? The difference between where you were and where you are now. Because people see you now and they maybe either don't know or don't realize where you used to be, but also what you needed to do and grow in order to be able to close that gap. So I would love to ask you some questions about that today. So I guess let's start off in the beginning. So thinking about maybe you can paint us a picture of what you were like before this all changed, where you were before you closed this gap. So can you give us an idea of what life actually looked like before?
I was all over the place. I had no control. And I found myself being depressed, angry, frustrated, and more overwhelmed than at that time humanly possible. Crying myself to sleep at night, wondering what if, always thinking about the negative. I call it a dark place. That's where I was. Mm-hmm. Back 5 years ago.
Before we actually get into what helped you to make that change, I know in the previous episode, the bonus episode you put out, you talked a little bit about the technical versus the adaptive challenges that people go through. I'm curious, before you started to understand what you needed to do to close this gap, what did you think the one of the problems was that you had back then?
I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing enough. And looking back, I still get emotional. I'm like, oh my God, how could I think that? How could I do that to myself? Why?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are in that space right there. So thank you for sharing that, friend. Now, before we get to where you are now and what helped close the gap, I know that you talked about this previously, but there was a time when you said, I'm done. I'm done with this, right? What was that moment, or maybe even it was a season that made you say, I'm done living this way?
I believe it was a conversation I was having with my husband at the time. Where he mentioned, I don't know how to run a business. Why are you not making any money? I think this is a waste of time. And all of those feelings and emotions and of course crying and I'm like, no, I'm done. I can do whatever I set my mind to. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to that place where I am fulfilled, where people are noticing that I can and that I am unstoppable. That moment, I'm like, you don't know how to run a business. You aren't making any money. I'm like, you want to bet? That moment, I chose to do something different, to get something different.
That's powerful, friend. So let's talk about what you did that was different. Because obviously we all know this, a lot of people make a decision and then still don't change. They still don't develop, they still don't grow. So I'm curious, like, what actually moved you through that gap into the person that you are today?
Because I'm in an MLM and we have leader women who are in different programs. This one caught my attention. It was a Josh Coates program. It was, I believe it was 626, 6 figures in 6 months. And I'm like, maybe this in this room could help me get on track. So I started out saying, okay, maybe I can make 6 figures in 6 months. Let's just give it a try. Of course, programs cost money. But at that point, I was done. And I said, I'm going to do and invest in myself. And I'm going to give this a try. And I did 3 more of his programs. And then I went into the life and performance coaching with you and Josh Coates. You went on to bigger and better for things. And I still did a master coach certification. And through all of these different programs, I first started thinking, these programs are going to help me make money. They're going to help me make money. When in fact, they didn't help me make money. But what they did was help me grow and become this powerful woman leader that I am today. So you see, there's no right or wrong here, Mark. Okay, the brain says, because the brain wants to keep me say, okay, let's try this program because it's going to make you more money. When in fact, it did the total opposite. But making money, it has 2 different meanings, right? Am I making more money? I got a promotion at work. Okay, so I'm making more money just by being who I've become. So in reality, I did win.
I'm curious about the programs. I mean, obviously I know the programs because I was a part of all those programs, right, with Josh. But I'm curious, like, was there a skill or something that you like learned that helped you the most in there? Because I know a lot of people think about there's just one thing that they need to do. And that one thing, once they do it, like everything is going to change. And I find that it's like a mixture of different skills and abilities and things you learn. And then there is one that usually shifts you the most, but it's the collection of all those. But going back to my original question is like, was there 1 or 2 like things that you learned while a part of these programs that really shifted how you started to show up and change?
Yes, learning how the unconscious and conscious mind works. Because when we can learn how to do that and how our brain works, that's gold. And then the second skill I actually have 2 more. But the second one is managing your mind or self-leadership, which I know you have a program coming up soon on that teaching. And then the other one is actually learning. After you learn all that, processing pain. And processing pain is my specialty. And I will be getting into that in season 2. Oh my goodness. But those are the 3 skills that I learned through those programs that have helped me throughout every single area of my life: family, career, business, with my coaching business, speaking, believe it or not, presenting, everything, health, every area.
Yeah. I know probably people who listen to this, they already know this, but Cynthia is a master coach for our team, and she now teaches this inside of our certification, especially the processing pain. I know last weekend we had you speak to this just because you're such a master at it. So thank you for leaning in and doing that, friend. I'm curious though, as you start to learn and develop these skills, What do you think, like, how did it change your day-to-day life? Like being able to have these skills and utilizing them, like just in your everyday life? Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to just be for my business. And when you work on your mind, you take your mind everywhere, you level up everything that you're doing. So I'm just curious, like, how did it change leaning into, like you said, learning how to coach, learning how to manage your mind? How do you think it changed your day-to-day?
I'm not that person anymore. The angry, the upset, cry myself to sleep every night woman. Instead, I ask myself powerful questions. An obstacle comes up. And this is not like real trauma, okay? I just want to make this perfectly clear. Real trauma is a different kind of process. But on everyday life where there's just micro moments that come up that are challenging or obstacles is what we call them. It's how is this going to help me? Okay. Instead of looking at it in a negative, I ask myself questions. How is this going to benefit me? What can I do for me in this situation? Right? It's just a constant in my head now. You know, it's sort of like my brain is like on autopilot. And I just automatically ask myself these questions. And that's not how it used to be. It used to be going through a skill that we teach in the certification that we call the growth model and just walking myself through it. But now it's just a matter of, okay, let's flip it. Let's flip it. So I'm constantly flipping the negative and how and what can I do to use this as an opportunity for me or for others that I'm trying to impact, right?
And I do want to ask you about the ripple effect in a minute, but before we do, kind of want to share a little bit about like where you are now. Okay, so we started a little bit about where you were. We talked about like that process, that messy middle, right? Being able to close that gap, and where you are now. I know that like now you're going through hard stuff. However, because you have grown the way that you are, you show up in an entirely different way. So I'm curious, like when you think about where you are right now, and how you deal with situations and scenarios and things that happen at work, at home, all of these different places, like where would you say you are now? Like how much different are you now compared to how you used to respond to situations like this?
I would have to say it's tenfold. When I look back, it like my Courtney was in a really bad car accident, and broke her left arm, her dominant hand, in 3 places, had to have surgery. And back then, I would have been flipping out, like, oh my God, why did this happen to her? Why me? Instead, now it's like, how can I help her in the moment? What can I do to set her up for success? And like I've said in other episodes, it's like the why. It's the way we ask the why. Okay, it's the way we ask the why. It's like we don't ask God why. Why did this have to happen to me? It's like, why? Is it because she needed me in this season of her life? Why? So instead of the negative, I flip it to the positive. The opportunity. Yes, this was devastating. This was traumatic. And you know, I'm a mom, so it's like you worry and like, have I done enough still? And da-da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, yes, I have done enough because that's who I am. That's my purpose. She is my everything. And it's part of my identity. It's just who I am. And I'd rather have me now than back then when I didn't have any control. Okay, because I wasn't managing my mind. I was just letting my thoughts spiral out of control to where nothing would get done. And now I'm able to get things done quicker. I'm still able to rest and recover. I'm still able to love her and have that deep connection that I would not have had 5 years ago. So you see, Mark, I just take the big challenges, whether they're hard, small, itty bitty, and I take the opportunity to say, okay, what is this trying to teach me in the moment? Okay. Even though I just currently said that processing pain is the little micro ones where we try and reframe our thoughts, okay, to think something different, to get something different, like our actions and our feelings and what have you, and the trauma. But I find myself still doing that. I still sit in it and process. But then I also ask myself questions like, how can I take what this bad thing that happened and make something good out of it? But that comes later on in the processing. And I have been doing this for a while. And like you said, I'm like a master at it. So now it just comes natural.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want you to hit on the ripple effect real quick on this process, because I know, like, when you think about the people closest to you, and it's like Courtney, people at work, people that you coach, right? They see you show up as this new version of you. But I'd love for you to talk about, like, what kind of ripple effect do you see that has on people at work, Courtney, people that you coach, because not only you went through this process, but you're willing to model that behavior when hard stuff comes up?
I think the ripple effect, Mark, is just people need people. And to see an ending result when you put in the work and you're committed to owning it and doing the hard things, that this is and can be for you also, the ripple effect is huge. I've seen it in my workplace. People just modeling my behavior. Usually, they would be yelling, screaming that, oh my God, why did they do this? This isn't going to work for us, and da-da-da-da-da. And then I say, well, how can it work? How can we make it work? So the ripple effect is for me, and it just ripples. And sometimes it's like in between of a wave, right? You have the crash, and then it comes up on the beach, and then there's silence before it pulls back. Hope that made sense.
It did. So last question for you. And that is, if there's a woman or somebody listening to this episode, and they recognize that they're in the before part of the gap, and, they want to get to the after part of the gap, and it feels just, far away. It doesn't feel like an instantaneous thing. What do you think you'd want her to know, like, leaving this lesson?
Find that someone, your support system, a coach, somebody that can hold you accountable. And just take that first step. Because, my friends, Rome was not built in a day, and neither is the woman you're becoming. Baby steps. And if any of you have any further questions on this episode, because it does dive in a little deeper, please reach out. Please reach out to me, because you're not alone, and I'm here for you.